I am Iyori Folani. This morning, let's talk a bit about diplomacy and also business, talking about the economy. The Minister of Industry Trade has disclosed at a briefing yesterday that something in the area of $50.8 billion in investment commitments through the president's numerous visits overseas. In fact, I think those visits, if I read that right, I mean, we're in the same country. I didn't even know there were about 300 of them, over 300 of them. But long story short, they have yielded commitments in the region of the grandiose sum of $50.8 billion. Okay, we'll come to that. What now needs to be done, according to the minister, is to track those potentials and just be sure that we are on top of it and we take full advantage of it. Well, to help us look at this, our guest this morning, Ambassador Elijah Onyagba, former Nigerian ambassador to Burundi. He's in our Abuja studio. A fine morning to you, Excellency.
A very good morning to you, Uncle Leary. Thank you very much for having me this morning.
Indeed, our pleasure. I mean, it sounds good, as I said, when you hear that, what, $50 billion? You know, for whoever was thinking, I don't know what they were thinking, but first of all, let me ask you, this sum that Jumoke Oduwole, the Honorable Minister of Industry and Trade, that she revealed at the briefing organized by the Ministry of Information yesterday, is it news to you? I mean, are you surprised, or is indeed this the kind of thing that was expected?
Well, thank you so very much for having me once again. First is that I must commend the federal government and the presidency for introducing this ministerial briefing, because it allows Nigerians to be able to have a sector-by-sector understanding of what is going on within the Nigerian economy. So that in itself is a very novel initiative. I think this briefing has been going on for the past 2 weeks, where the Minister of Information actually gets other ministers to come and speak to the Nigerian people as to what is going on. And of course, yesterday was the turn for the Minister of Industries, Trade and Investment to speak to Nigerians. And she went ahead to say what they've been doing, and of course made a mention of the word $50.8 billion in terms of commitments, foreign investment commitments, that has come as a result of a president's, a diplomatic shuttle across the world. First, it must also be said that the president has also been the chief marketer of the country, Nigeria, at this particular point in time. And indeed, that's his responsibility. Ideally, he's even the #1 Minister of Foreign Affairs, which means that he's got the responsibility of telling the world about his country, of marketing the country, and of course, driving investment towards this direction. That he has also done creditably well. The president's foreign trips, if you like, has always been about economic investment and trade opportunities. It's always been about diplomatic strengthening of ties, and then trying to ensure that we have a better global reputation for Nigeria. It's about driving for, seeking for investments in energy and infrastructure, security, counter-terrorism cooperation, diaspora remittances, debt relief for the country to be able to ensure economic stability, partnerships in education, and of course, investment in technology. So that seems to be the area of focus for the president. But the minister has actually mentioned the word, specifically $50.8 billion, in the form of investment commitments.
Yes.
And, how this works is that in this engagement, you go ahead to sign MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding. And in that MOU, it clearly details what needs to come, who has got what responsibility, and the timing for carrying all of those things out. And I also did understand, I'm not quite sure if you heard it, that they have actually signed about 87 MOUs, you know, spanning across all of this diplomatic shuttle within the time frame. You know, so what that basically means is that it sounds good, $50.8 billion sounds good, but you see, what is important at the end of the day is implementation.
Yes.
What is important is tracking. What is important is follow-up. What Nigerians wants to hear is, it's okay to hear commitments, but at the end of the day, what will matter is how much of this came to materialization. And that's why I think that the reforms that the government embarked on at the beginning of this administration was important, because for an investor, foreign investor into Nigeria, you know, what are you looking for? You want to be able to repatriate your investment at any particular point in time that you want it back. You also want ease of doing business. You do not want government that will keep on having policy somersaults, you know. So you also want a very, a business environment that is friendly, so that you can actually come in with your investments and then feel, you know, welcomed, and of course drive your businesses. So I think that these reforms will clearly were meant to support the drive for the investments coming into the country. So we are hoping and believing that these investments will be tracked. We're believing that it will be monitored, it will be followed up, and then it begins to move from commitment to reality. What will matter at the end of the day is how much truly came in from the commitments. And that's why these MOUs are very important, because it details who has got what responsibility, you know. And you know, if you date back the first, you know, after inauguration, the president went to India. There were about $16 billion in terms of commitments. From there to Riyadh, from there to Germany, from there back to Riyadh, from there to G8, G20. So there has always been quite a lot of...
in fact, specifically 413 international trips since inauguration, according to the minister. 413. We might not have realized that there were as many as that.
No, incidentally, I'm surprised actually at the number, but, you know, you will wonder about the cost. But at the end of the day, the major issue, in my opinion, is, you know, we have gone out to get these commitments.
Yes.
How much of these commitments have we been able to move from a paper document that has been signed to reality on ground? That's what I think that we need to focus on. And of course, if I was also expecting that there will be a breakdown of this $50.8 billion in terms of commitment, so that people actually know various areas. Yes, I had talked about the fact that there were, you know, outlets, investment outlets that the president provides on his trips, you know, take, for example, infrastructure, energy. You know, this is a country of over 200 million in population, and the size of the markets here is quite huge. You know, so infrastructure, for example, is a big investment opportunity. Infrastructure in the form of roads, in the form of transportation, in the form of healthcare, in the form of education. There's quite a lot in terms of opportunities that there are for the country, you know. And clearly, I think that that breakdown will be necessary just for the purpose of information. But beyond the breakdown is that I'm hoping and believing that a lot of work will be done in terms of tracking and monitoring and follow-up, and ensuring that Nigeria does whatever we have committed to in the Memorandum of Understanding, that will in turn translate those commitments to actual realities on ground. And that's what I believe, that if the drive goes in this direction, I mean, it's not, we haven't been short of commitments in terms of, you know, what potentials there are in terms of what can come into the country. What we need is to begin to drive those things and begin to ensure that we bring to reality what has been committed. Fine, the first step is to get that commitment, but the most important is implementation.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for putting this in perspective and explaining it, the MOUs and all of that. In fact, just as you are saying, the minister herself said yesterday that we must recognize the importance of tracking investments generated through President Tinubu's engagements, and there were quite a few of them. I remember one particular quote that stuck. I think the president had said at one of those numerous international trips that Nigeria is ready for business. We are ready for business, and he gave the impression at the time that all the impediments, I mean, it's a new day, and that all the impediments that might have been thought to exist before, all of those would be addressed now, so that that is in his term, and hopefully going on from there. He's been very, he's spent a lot of energy and a lot of time. No doubt he strategized his time and has sort of focused on this, because if that's not a typo, 413 international trips, I mean, they do quickly add up. But how we now go about it, you have emphasized it after the minister also emphasized it, that she said that we need to recognize the importance of tracking investment. So this is a matter, as you've just explained, of knowing who is in charge of what, and probably having periodic assessments on how well we are doing. Because 50.8 billion is a healthy sum, but it has to be worked at. It's not as if it's in the kitty yet, but President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has, and his team. I think it's important to say, you said that President Tinubu, he's the chief marketer of the country. In fact, he's the first foreign minister of the country, in a manner of speaking. Yeah, I understand all of that, but there must be a team that he is working with. So he and this is team. There's a sense in which one can say kudos for this, but it's not yet Uhuru. It's not as if it's in the pocket yet, right?
Yes, but let me also add, Uncle Yoru, there are a couple of issues here, and I'd like to also highlight them. Okay. You see, for the president, it's a lot of work that he's put in, and believe me, I'm sure if that number of 413 wasn't mentioned yesterday, I'm sure even to mention half of the number in terms of the trips he's undergone would be a little bit of a surprise. But again, it's not the issue. There's quite a lot of work that needs to be done. Okay. As someone that understands foreign and international relations, it's okay to sit down and sign agreements. But what is important, because for every engagement that a president gets into, usually it's always important that, fora or forum is used to be able to get participants in some other sectors that can actually improve diplomatic ties, relations, trade, and all of that as regards, relations between the country that the president has visited and Nigeria, But I want to say clearly that tracking is not enough. Yes, you're tracking. What tracking does for you is that it helps you understand who has got what responsibility. But it's the follow-up and ensuring that we do what we are expected to do. I think this is the point that it's important, because when you sign those agreements, typically it is the responsibility of your representatives that you have appointed, either in the form of ambassadors or in the form of special envoys. Or sometimes president can also set up a mini committee that he can actually give the responsibility to drive relations. For example, what he did with China. I think there is, when he went on and executed the Nigerian-China cooperation, I think there's some, there's this mini committee that has also been given the responsibility to champion that. But ideally, once those things are done, responsibilities clearly, because that's what we want to see now. We want to be able to see who has got what responsibility. Okay, we have a business relations, or we have an understanding. We signed agricultural MOU with Brazil, for example. Who has got the responsibility of driving that initiative and ensuring that it comes to fruition? Is it the Nigerian ambassador to Brazil? Is it a combination of that plus the Minister of Agriculture, or that of the Trade and Investment? Some of these mappings needs to be done so that Nigerians will clearly know who to hold responsible for anything that the president had actually to be able to get as in the form of commitment to Nigeria. So that part needs to be very, very clear to the people of Nigeria. And that's why in addition to tracking, let us know. We need to know. The president has been to Riyadh. This is the commitment that is coming in the form of energy sector. These are the people that are responsible. And these are also the timelines that are also required to be able to deliver on this. Because you can make that statement, 50.8 billion, that is expected to crystallize and provide returns of close to another 50 to 80 billion dollars between now and the year 2030. It's good, but we have to get down to the nitty-gritty. We have to actually crystallize this thing so that Nigerians can clearly see the pathway. Is it investment in technology? By whom? Who is responsible to do the follow-up? How are we going to be able to know that these things are happening as had been committed? So that's why I believe that a lot needs to still happen. The good news is there already because, all of this investment starts from commitments. I also will tell you a lot of work is also going on, I also had the minister talk about the fact that Nigeria is now digital trade, champion, for Africa under the African Free Continental Trade Area, agreement. The challenge we also have, both as a country, as a continent, is that we are 50 countries in Africa, or 51 or 52 as the case may be. And if you also look at it, we are having 46 currencies to grapple with. Yes. I had the minister talk about the fact that a system had also been put in place to help trade. African Afro-Exim Bank had tried to put a system in place that allows trade within the continent to happen without you looking for dollar. For example, she was specific in saying that I can buy something from South Africa using my Naira, or buy in Kenya, or buy in Uganda, and vice versa. Now, these are all enablers, in her words, for us to be able to have this mechanism in place. That way it becomes a lot easier for some of these commitments to also, begin to materialize. Because we are in an era that America is beginning to show themselves as a country that is about protectionism, about themselves, and, so it also allows you to be able to think through and also begin to look at things that can help you inwards, because once you set up your system in place in such a way that you have become an attraction. We are already an attraction by virtue of the markets. We're already an attraction by virtue of the population. We're already an attraction by virtue of our land mass and all of the opportunities across all sectors. All we now need to do is to get our acts together, begin to reform and retool our policies in such a way that investors can easily find here as a hub for investment. And once we have all of that in place, and I believe very much that this government have done a lot of work in terms of the foundational work that is required to be able to take us to the next level. So right now it's who is responsible. Tell us who is responsible. Let the person responsible, the same way the minister comes out to give the report, also come and tell us what they've done with respect of those commitments and with respect to the charge that has been given to them. And that's what I think that we need to have beyond just the formation of the commitments, so that we'll begin to, put pressure on these people to ensure that these things come to fruition. And I believe that that will also help the president at, ensuring that his renewed hope agenda is met in line with what he feels he needs to do with respect to foreign relations and foreign direct investments coming into the country.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ambassador. And Mr. George, good morning to you in Ikeja there. Thank you very much for holding on for a fair bit. Please go ahead now.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning.
Good morning to the Ambassador.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, each time I hear that minister speak, I am always proud that we have a minister like that in Nigeria. Each time she talks, I see another Okonjo-Iweala coming up in her. So, but let me first correct something. That 400 plus trips that she spoke about is not only the president that took that trip. We know he has not traveled up to 100 times, not to talk about 400.
One was a bit surprised. Please continue. Trips undertaken by ministers, other government agents, in connection with these investment portfolios and all the rest, all put together, not the one that the president personally undertook. So that, because I know some of these people on social media who have been saying the president is wasting money in traveling, that
Okay, I hope they are hearing the figures now, and they are hearing what is being done. I am totally in agreement with the ambassador that what has happened is step one. Those commitments have been secured, but the implementation should be followed to the letter. I'm happy that it's like the government is listening to us. We have been saying it on this program that accountability is not enough. That we are seeing. We want them to come and be briefing the people of what each minister or each appointee is doing to justify the money we are spending on them. So let this one continue. And I also join the ambassador to say that other people that have responsibilities in this investment task, they should come out periodically to tell the people how far they have gone and to let us know what achievements have been made here and there. I trust the president, and I know that the monitoring aspect of it will make these things happen. The last thing, Uncle Yori, I don't know. The ambassador you are talking to, I don't even know why he's retired. You see, very young. He's the type that the president would like to work with. I don't know, but I think he's the type that the president would like to work with. I end it there.
All right, then. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. George. Well, Ambassador, we got a clarification there that, wait a minute, 413 international trips, that doesn't necessarily mean Mr. President undertook all of those, that it's a total number from everybody concerned with this particular objective.
In fact, I wanted to say something here, Uncle Yori.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Yes, just to put it in perspective in support of what the speaker said. The president is less than 2 years in office. Just 2 months or 60 days or whatever, less than 90 days, So a year is made up of 356 days. So,
yes.
just to put it in perspective.
Yes.
So if you say that the president has been out of the country for 400 and something, it means he's been actually out of the country for
longer,
a year and about 2 months.
Yes.
In the course of his, so this is now good because this perspective, because I was actually surprised to hear that number. Yeah. But again, now this makes it very clear because it's a combination of the various investment drives and travels that government officials has actually been engaged in trying to drive these investments into the country, which is good. It's good for the purpose of transparency for people to know. But I'm not quite sure what the value of that information is with respect to what has come in. But again, transparency is, government requires that, people that has elected you into office know exactly what you are doing with the resources and with the mandate that you have, which is okay. But clearly, what is important at this point, like we've always emphasized, is to implement. And I do not even think that the ministers are enough. I actually do think, and I'm suggesting to the Ministry of Information, that even heads of agencies should also be put on the hot seat to be able to tell the government or tell the people of Nigeria what they are also doing. It's not, a minister just getting a report. Take, for example, Interior. We need to speak to Customs, speak to Immigration, speak to Civil Defense, and all of this to be able to now have a view or present what each. No. Everybody that has been given responsibility, as much as we can reach them, particularly those occupying very sensitive agency positions, not just the ministers, they should also come and sit, maybe alongside with their minister, so the minister can have an overarching view or overarching perspective of what is going on agency by agency. But the specific who has got the ball on their, on their feet, should also speak to Nigerians what is going on with the responsibilities that they have. That way, they will face the media, and then they should also be able to respond to questions and, discuss their achievements. So that way, if you also know that you are incapable of doing the job, it will show. If you haven't been doing that job very well, that is also a very fair assessment mechanism that all Nigerians can also be part of. So I think it's a step in the right direction. I also believe that a lot of work has been done But there is always what is referred to as the last milestone headache. You know, it's always towards the end of crystallization. That's what will matter at the end of the day, because we can discuss about all the work that has been done, but there is a mile first before the extra mile. So we have run the mile, but we need a lot of work to now, go in ensuring that what has been committed will be, because at the end of the president's tenure, if he's going back to ask for the mandate of the people again, his yardstick for measurements is the renewed hope document. People will be judging you to say, you said you were going to do this, what have you been able to achieve? Okay, you were going to drive foreign direct investment. At some point, second year in the administration, 50 billion came in. 50 billion was committed. How much of this did we achieve? So that will be what will matter at the end of the day. But good news, so far so good, because we are also reforming our economy and the policies within the country to be able to, make it easier for the implementation. So we are basically at the foundation level. It is now time to build up the building, which is what everybody will be looking forward to get. Because examples have shown that the reforms are yielding results. For example, take what's going on in the energy sector. How would you be able to get people to come and invest in our energy when we are artificially determining the prices of petroleum products? It is a difficult thing because you don't know what the real price is. So why would I want to come and invest and then begin to wait for your budget to be able to get subsidy out of it? So that issue has been addressed now. There is even competition that has stepped in. You can see NNPC and Dangote refineries.
The petrol wars.
This amount, today is the other amount. You can see gradually driving the price down, which is what competition does. We witnessed this with the GSM. When MTN came to Nigeria and Econet those days, they said it was going to be impossible for us to be billed by the second, but Glo appeared and it became possible for all the network providers to start billing by the second. Same thing is also happening in the foreign exchange reform. Naira actually got that rate as a result of that uncertainty and fluctuation and challenges with the reform at the time, took the Naira to nearly 2,000. Today, it's now hovering around 1,500. We are also hoping that as investments also begin to drive into the economy, you will also find a situation where that even rate should also come down, because I expect it to just come down to about 1,002, 1,003. That's my own personal projection, but the numbers will show at the end of the day. So clearly, these issues have been addressed, and that reform now makes it easier for someone to get in their money and be able to take their money at any particular point in time that they want. So we believe that the foundation has been done, but it will also be important to now continue the building and ensure that we deliver a good product.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. At this stage, we'll take a break. Do please stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Minister of Industry, Investment and Trade, Jumeke Oduwole, explains what the ministry has done so far since she came into office.
Deepening trade relations with 5 key countries, we position Nigeria as an FCFTA digital trade champion and commence the review of our trade policy. Now, this is kind of a timeline of the major interventions. So from November, the FCFTA Council of Ministers met, and immediately Nigeria registered its interest in digital trade championship at that time. We also had on the 26th of November ministerial consultation with exporters. So exporters have a clear problem here because this is the priority push of the administration.
She disclosed that Afrexim Bank set up a system to ensure trade in local currencies across Africa to support MSMEs.
Afrexim Bank actually set up a payment system that makes sure that traders can trade in their local currency. So I can pay for something in South Africa with Naira. I can pay for something in Nairobi with Naira. Someone can pay for something with the Rand in Lagos. And what this does is that it stops the need for Africans to pay correspondence banking fees, which was taking a lot of money out of the continent to London, to New York. And I believe that that's the spirit in which the question is being asked about cryptocurrency. So just to say that these are enablers.
She also talked about the $50 billion investment and trade.
Well, we track the investment flows as they come in from the CBN per quarter. We also track what the Bureau of Statistics releases. Our role as Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is to handhold those businesses, to remove the regulatory and bureaucratic bottlenecks, to share information, the transparency and the efficiency of public service delivery, to support them in whatever incentives are possible for them, and to bring that money home.
The minister reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to accelerate economic diversification through strategic partnership and policy-driven initiatives. Mariam Mohammed, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, so there you have it, and we still have Ambassador Elijah with us. Ambassador Elijah, thank you very much for remaining with us. And well, another aspect of all of this is, you know, there was a feeling at one point that the people weren't being shown enough, told enough, reported to enough about the efforts of this administration. So this particular, you know, event that has been organized by the Ministry of Information, it's along the lines of what the president would desire, because it was often felt that the people don't know, that is, didn't know all that was going on, and they need to know. So just on the point about organizing and reporting back to the people as it is, this is a commendable one, right?
Yes, it is, Uncle Yuri. And let me also say that for every government, public perception and accountability is important. It does not matter the depths of the work that you're putting in, but you must also be very careful with the public perception that you're creating and an understanding of accountability that people have about your government. So this is actually going to buttress the fact that government is now talking, government is now doing. So sometimes you know, initially it will look like you're winking in the dark, you know, because you can say you're doing this, but you haven't really told anybody what you're doing. Yeah. You know, so this is a very, very, you know, I started by commending these initiatives of asking the ministers and also suggesting that we can also go a little bit deeper. You know, this is almost like a subset of, you know, State of the State address or State of the Nation address, for example, where we now go deeper and understand what exactly is going on with the people that we have been tasked with the responsibility of driving the Renewed Hope initiative. So this is good. I was listening to the commentary right now. I heard, you know, even though I had mentioned about it before because I listened to the minister yesterday talking about what Afrexim is trying to do to be able to help promote trade, you know, intra-Africa trade and all of that, which is all good. But I'd like to add to that Afrexim is not enough. Whatever platform they've put on the system is not enough, because at all the times when you want to do all of these transactions, there are switches, you know, from local switches to international switches and all of that. I think, and I'm suggesting, and I feel very strong about this, that time has come for the African continent to begin to operate with nothing more than 4 currencies. For as long as 20, 30 years, the West African ECOWAS region has been dealing with trying to have one currency that they refer to as the ECO. You know, that conversation, the CBN has actually championed that, and it has gone on and on and on and on for so long. Time has come, if we really truly want to implement AfTA, Afrexim can also be one of the options. But really, if I find out that whatever currency I have here can be spent in Ghana, can be spent in Gambia, can be spent in Senegal, and indeed across the member states of the ECOWAS region, that in itself is an improvement on the trade processes that can actually ensure we improve on our trade within the continent. The North Africans can have the same. The East Africans can have the same. The SADC, which is the South African Development region, community can also have that kind of currency. That way, you are not dealing with more than 4 currencies within the continent. And that will be a step in the right direction, because it is not the, you know, if we are to improve on AfTA, because Nigeria has actually been given the responsibility of championing the digital trade, you know, but it's not just the transaction or how you make payments. It's also about how the goods are moved from one location to another. Yes, I want to buy something from South Africa. I have paid for it through any platform or whatever. How does that good actually move from South Africa to, you know, Nigeria? And it's not about buying retail. The essence of trade is to move from retail to wholesale, which is where the actual volume in the trade actually, where you can find quite a lot of volume. So a lot of work needs to be done. We will continue to suggest to government what we feel they need to do at every particular point in time. But ultimately, like I said, it's good reporting. But we must also look at the challenges before us, the challenges of actualizing this investment, pledge, the vis-a-vis the high cost of these foreign trips, because the foreign trips are not paid for. It's the government that is paying for it, so it's not free. So the cost must also be related to the kind of returns that we are getting. We are also looking at implementation bottlenecks. What are the challenges we have within our economy? What are also the security challenges? Because the environment where you're calling investors to come in and invest must also be made to be secure. Otherwise, if investors get the idea that they will come in and invest and they won't be able to, security challenges are there. And, so there are quite a lot of work that we are required to do by ourselves to be able to ensure that these investments, when they come in, can also stay and begin to yield the expected dividends. But again, it's a step in the right direction. We also need to focus on the strategic implementation. We also need to ensure that our polity, our political economy is stable. We need a stable political economy. We also need to be able to do everything that we need to do to support the government in ensuring that this comes to fruition. Because indeed, governance will always be everybody's responsibility. Even though there is a leader, there's a captain, but every other person have got a role to play to ensure that, whatever reforms we have at home will make it easier for investment to come into the country, and we can always grow from there. Remember, the challenge is to be able to ramp up our economic growth and ensure that we are growing at a rate that is not higher than the rate that our population is growing. If we do not achieve that, we will still have a lot of people that are being, drafted into the poverty, people that are moving into the poverty circles, day by day. So the idea is whatever we're doing locally, driving it, attaching it to whatever that is coming from foreign direct investment into the country. All of this put together will help drive our economy, because once the economy is growing in the right direction, everybody within that economy will also grow. And Indeed. That's what we're looking forward to.
Indeed. Thank you very much. And as you say, there still is much work ahead of us, but at least the groundbreaking aspect of it, the groundbreaking ceremony, has been effectively executed by Mr. President. And I'm happy that you brought up the matter of bottlenecks in passing. But I think it's also important in relation to whether we want to call it monitoring of the potential, tracking of the potential. This is where I feel that Mr. President is going to really be on the side of, administrators and some of those places where bottlenecks occur. Because he has said in some of those trips, if I recall, that, look, just let me know, speaking to foreign counterparts, it went as far as, just let me know, even though, well, there probably are ways of doing things, but he was so emphatic about it that bottlenecks will be removed so that we just will be dealing with the substance of what we need to do. I think that's very, very important. So this president doesn't seem like one that is going to tolerate as an explanation or an excuse administrative bottlenecks in any of these grand plans that you've emphasized. The minister has also emphasized must be tracked and must be monitored.
Uncle Yuri, you see, one of the things that I find very innovative, and I think is a step in the right direction, is that the president is actually traveling with some of the state governors and on some of these trips. The reason is because that we have the concurrent list and we have the exclusive list. There are a few issues that, not just the president will be expected to address. Some of the issues, the state governors will also have their own roles to play. And that is where a collective effort is required on the part of everybody in driving Nigeria forward, the project Nigeria forward. And why do I say this? You remember a couple of months back when China, a company that went to do business in Ogun State, went to France. Is it France or where was that they went and saw a plane and then they quickly went and using arbitration or whatever procedure they had to be able to seize our presidential jets across. And you see, when I investigated that matter, I found out that they actually relied under an agreement, a trade agreement that China had executed with Nigeria to deal with that. Now, that agreement may have been executed at the federal level, maybe with a particular ministry, we house with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and all of that. That agreement has been there, but somehow, these Chinese had gone to do business in Ogun State. And maybe, there are gaps in this information flow, that they had actually come to take advantage of whatever they needed on the federal government without necessarily, so you can see that there's a need for everybody to work together.
Indeed.
When agreements are being signed and executed in the form of these MOUs, the subnationals within the country, the governors, possibly even those in charge of our local government, because there are third tiers of governments, should also be in the know of what is going on, so that when the Chinese are coming in and they're saying they are doing business with you and they are doing, we need to all have a clear understanding of what had been signed on to. These documents are public information, documents that should be for public information. Therefore, that engagement at every level, remember, Chinese actually go straight, sometimes they just come into the country and they go straight to the state's government and they start having conversation for investment opportunities with the states. So somehow, everybody needs to be able to see one another, understand what is happening where, and that's what I like about this nature of reporting. This reporting must actually continue and then be broken down and, it must be crystallized into who is doing what, so that we can see, okay, this investment is happening in this particular state and these are the people that are responsible, these are the roles of the state government, and it's about ensuring that every bottleneck involved in making it easier or in making it, easier for us to be able to attract this investment should be removed. And in the removal of that, it's not just about the presidential responsibility. Every one of us is in, particularly the state governments. That's why most times when he makes these trips and you see one or two governors as part of the trips, I also feel that this is the right thing that needs to happen. But they shouldn't just end at that. Whatever they come with, it should also be shared across so that everybody will see what opportunities there are for their states, for their local government, and even at the federal level. That's where all hands should be on deck in ensuring that we're moving in the right direction. So I hear the challenges, but again, the issue of removal of bottlenecks in attracting investment, and indeed, even in doing business, because certain things has to happen. While you can judge the ease of doing business in Nigeria at a global level, we also have a mechanism for judging the ease of doing business in Nigeria at the local level and at the state subnational levels. For example, issues relating to the Land Use Act of 1979. The president cannot do anything about land. Everything about land administration resides with the state government. And this investment will not be done in the space. They will be done on land. So if you're getting someone to put up a refinery, to put up a manufacturing plant, to put up a hub of technology, this cannot be hanging in the air. You will need the cooperation of the state governments that are in charge of providing lands to be able to do all of that. So that's where everybody needs to work together, to be able to drive those kind of investments. So there are responsibilities. As much as President is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the President will not force any state governor to be able to provide land. He will not go and say, you must do this, you must do this. In fact, it's only working through the FCT that he can do that. But once you get to Nasarawa, get to Niger, get to Kogi states you have to defer to the state government. So democracy is such that the responsibility of governance is a shared one, and at some point you also need the help of the legislators, either at the state level or at the national level, to also help you in making the laws that will make it easier for you to drive all of these things. So
indeed.
The time has come for all hands to be on deck to drive the Nigeria project forward.
Indeed. Let me bring on Mazi Okoro for now, calling in from Aruchuku. Morning, Mazi.
Good morning, sir. There's nothing wrong for investment. When we talk about investment, we talk about the variables and tax. The variables that surround any kind of investment we want to, like the guest was just talking about online. Now, the energy, the power is happening. You see, we have to put all those sectors on focus, whatever, to be viable. So that when somebody comes to your place, it doesn't have any problem. And the components of another stop energy we have, where are they? These are the things. The president has a very good, but the question is that the implementation and to take this thing as to the grassroots to where and where we need all those investors, where we need all those people. That is what we are. We have a lot of things. That when today's paper were telling us about Nigeria, the third indebted country in Africa. Now you have to ask yourself, all these past money they have collected or loans or funds, where are they? Look at executive loans, as I was ready to, can employ up to 1 million Nigerians, 700 Nigerians. What is happening? Look at how much the government has, what they have invested there. There is nothing coming out of it. Now we come back to our oil industry. Thank God for Dangote now has come out with a brand that also comes. But I will advise Dangote that make this distribution of wealth at least reach at least 6 geopolitical zones. Because the company they have that is good this tonight is not going around. Only few states benefiting from Dangote distribution of petroleum products. It's supposed to be at least. It is the job of state governors, the honorable member, national member, state governors to see that all this is come down to the people so that the people. So, up to today, do you know in Nigeria where price of transportation is, it doesn't come down? Look at what is happening at the oil industry. Instead the price goes down. What the transportation fare is still there. That is coming down. You go to the market to buy firewood, stagnant. You go there to buy charcoal, stagnant. Gary, I'm stagnant. Where are these things that what do they have? They say people are coming down together. The people at the grassroots are making it very, very uncomfortable. Some people are saying that they bought it before. Like, why is it so? So at this period, we have just entered land. And we are just entered the answer in Boston. Nigeria should rethink. Whether you belong to the Muslim faith or belong to Christian faith, rethink. Let us do the needful ourselves and do the needful so that Nigeria will move for this period of days, this 40 days or 30 days, so that Nigeria will, because the way we are doing that, people in the country are also compounding problem for other people. Hey, Nigeria, God will bless us. Good morning, my brother. Good morning.
Good morning, Mazio Korabo. Thank you very much. Well, our time is far spent. First of all, Ambassador, I would like to say that I would guess that most Nigerians are going to be pleased about this development. That is the organization by the Ministry of Information of this particular forum for us to hear. And one just hopes that this will also, I think we can, I hope it implies that we shall also be hearing from other ministries and ministers as well, because this is going to help us, as you put it, everybody to be on the same page. We all know what we're supposed to know, so we know who to look towards for direction and for reporting. So in that sense, I would imagine that you've said it already, that yeah, this is a remarkable, this is indeed remarkable, but the whole matter about after all of that, issues of tracking, monitoring have come up, and we have to go this a further step. You've said that there's much more to be done, but at least, hopefully, I would stick my neck out and say, we're on the right course here, if we can just maintain that course.
No, yes, Uncle Yuri, I think that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Information has actually done very well, and they have been on this issue for a while. And I think that we must touchlight every ministry. We must actually demand accountability, demand explanation for what they are doing in line with the Mr. President's initiative or directive.
Ambassador, we've run out of time. I beg your pardon, sir. I really do beg your pardon.